Good morning, watch nerds. Well, who are Alcadus, or Alcadus? Because up until a few weeks ago, I'd never heard of them. It's a Malaysian microband, and the word Alcadus means high beat, or something similar. A Dromo, by the way, is a type of boat. Having watched a few reviews on this watch, I can tell you that all the other reviewers have rated it very highly, so I suggest you have a look at a few of those. However, the majority of the reviews are of the prototype, which is quite a different animal. It's almost unheard of that I buy a watch and know it's going to be a keeper from the start, but this is one of those watches. So keep viewing, folks. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Alcadus Dromo. Well, the packaging is very impressive, although quite different to what I expected and I've seen on other reviews. It's this oval type pouch with a watch cushion. Also included is a very nice quality watch roll, some instructions and a cleaning cloth. Now if you buy a new one of these, I believe you also get a 4-year warranty, which is impressive to say the least. As usual then, let's have a look at the dimensions. Now the case is listed at 39mm, but I measure it at 38.4. The lug width is 20mm. The lug to lug is a compact 45.5mm and the depth is 12.5mm, which includes a large box sapphire crystal with 5 layers of AR coating. Now once adjusted to fit my 17cm wrist, it weighs in about 130 grams. Now in my opinion, it wears like a 38, which actually suits me fine. Now this is ideal for smaller and medium sized wrists, although it wouldn't look out of place on something slightly larger. Keeping the watch running is an in-house regulated Miyota 9039 automatic calibre, a movement I've had in many watches and presently have in about half my collection. It's a 4Hz high beat movement that ticks away at 28,800 beats per hour, hacks and winds, and it's got a power reserve exceeding 42 hours. If regulated correctly, these can be extremely accurate. These are not just reliable, they've got a low stack, which means they're thin enough to fit in most cases. This one's presently running at about plus 6 seconds a day, but let's see how it performs on a time grapher. There we are, a good beat hour, a good amplitude and a good rate. The 6.5mm conical screw down crown is nicely knurled, engages well and operates the movement without issue. It also has 2 nice little touches. First, the sign tip is loomed. And secondly, there is a red line on the threading to indicate the crown has been left out. These little touches shows the owner of this brand is determined to get things right. That said, I do have a few minor complaints, but I'll get to those in a while. Now who doesn't like a nice bezel on a dive watch? And generally speaking, this is a very nice bezel. Now it's got a sapphire insert that's loomed, and I particularly like the orange arrow at the top. Now the 120 click unidirectional action is reasonable, but quite light, although apparently the prototypes are very stiff. Now the outer part of the bezel has this beautiful knurling, however it's not the simplest to grip. Now it almost aligns perfectly and it's got very little back play or bounce. Now let's have a little listen. It goes without saying this is a sunburst red option, which is presently out of stock by the way. We start from the outside with white chapter ring, and under the 12 o'clock it simply reads Alcadus, and above the 6 o'clock it reads Dromo with the water resistance printed in yellow. All the indices are applied, with the one at the 12 o'clock being a compass arrow, whilst the remainder are batons and circles. The fence post hands and indices are filled with the generous application of C3X1 lume, which makes this watch glow like a torch. Here is a speeded up video of that lume. So let's look at the case. Firstly, this case and bracelet has an 800 Vickers scratch-proof coating, which is something I believe all watches should have, so well done Alcadus. Now it's also got drilled lugs, although not really needed due to the quick release spring bars on the bracelet, but we'll come to that in a while. The tops of the lugs are circularly brushed, whilst the sides are vertically brushed, which is another minor moan. I can tolerate vertically brushed sides on a tall diver, but I think it's wrong on something more dressy. That said, it's all done very well. Now the only polishing is a transitional chamfer between the lugs and the sides. Now there's a nice downturn, meaning this fits very well on the back of the wrist. Flipping the watch over, you can see it's got a screw down case back, which helps with the watch's claimed 200 metres of water resistance. There's a nice etched picture of a Dromo, with some basic information engraved around the sides. Before I tell you about the bracelet and the clasp, let me show you this free calfskin strap that came with it. This is a beautifully made strap, and not only looks great, it's very malleable and it's very comfortable, and as you can see, it's got its own signed hardware. I tend to prefer my dive watches on a bracelet, but this is a great freebie. What we have here is a fully brushed flat link bracelet with female end links that fit perfectly to the case. Now it's got quick release spring bars, and for adjustment there's some well engineered screw pins. Honestly, this bracelet is excellent and it's ridiculously comfortable. However, if we rub your finger on the top of the bracelet, it does feel a tad sharp. Here's what it looks like on a few different straps, including the one that came with it. Now, although I'm a fan of on-the-fly adjustable clasps, I'm not a great fan of this one, and I would describe it as more of a diver's extension. Don't get me wrong, it's very nicely made, but when you extend it you can see the inner parts of the mechanism. Now I've had this clasp on a few watches before, and I've always criticised it, so that's another little moan out of the way. So let's talk price, because this is where I'm a little bit confused. Having watched a video on this watch made a few years ago, it was priced at $449. On their website now, it's priced at $697, and that's reduced from $797. Well, I've heard of inflation, but that's ridiculous. Okay, there is every chance that the $449 was an introductory price, but at the same time, $797 sounds a little bit steep to me. I would say if you can pick one of these up for less than $500, you've got yourself a decent value for money watch. For what it's worth, I picked up this mint condition one from an eBay seller. So what do I think of the Alcadus Dromo Skin Diver? For what I paid, and that's my secret, I'm absolutely delighted. It looks great, the specifications and finish are fantastic, and it's one of the most comfortable dive watches I've ever worn. Okay, I'm not a fan of the clasp, and I don't particularly like vertical brushing on the sides, but other than that, I think this is a great offering for the right price. So that brings me to the end of this review. If you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.